In this video, we're going to take a look at how you can use Google Jamboard for some online group work. So in my regular classroom, I must say I'm a great fan of the think, pair, share style activities. These little micro group discussions lasting maybe 30 seconds to 2 minutes, something like that, where pupils get a chance to explore their thinking, to explain it to each other and have their thinking refined as they're discussing. And one of the things that I'm struggling with a little bit here in this online format is that opportunity to ask probing diagnostic style questions and yet not giving the students the chance really to go through and explore those together before I ask one of them to unmute their mic and put that pressure on them. That is a bit of a pressured thing really, isn't it? So I was looking for ways that I could harness the kind of learning opportunities that I would be exploring in class anyway, and in a way that will allow me to have a good sense of how the students are getting on, allow me to kind of diagnose their progress and understanding while I'm monitoring what they're doing, and also for them to get that opportunity then to explore ideas together. And what better tool than Google Jamboard? Now, the exercise itself was designed to help them to try to read the shape of the land or topography from an Ordnance Survey map. Now this can be a difficult task and this can be quite overwhelming, so I've chosen a particularly challenging area in Snowdonia in North Wales, where you get these beautiful glacial valleys and very steep-sided valleys and flat-bottomed U-shaped valley bottoms, all sorts of things like this. It's a wonderful but gloriously complex landscape, and what I have devised on here is a series of coloured circles which represent different journeys. We can imagine a journey starting here, coming up here, and so forth. So if they're mapping out a journey, what they need to be doing is getting a sense on this journey of what land they're going to be walking over. So they're color coded here, and the task that they're working on here is relatively simple in essence, but it really does get them to think. They've got to rearrange these little post-its, so I set them up just using this post-it option over here. Very, very simple for you just to do. Type in there whatever you want, change the color in the background, no problem. Then you can move them around and resize them here whatever way you want. So it set them all up, and their task was simply this. In their group work, they had to arrange these from highest to lowest. Now, one of the common misconceptions that you can sometimes get from this is that, especially this one, right, it's going to be pretty obvious that this is the highest one up the top of the hill. But the common misconception can sometimes be that this is down at the bottom hill, so this is the lowest, and you work your way up the hill. Now, of course, it's not quite as simple as that. There is a landscape that they've got to read here, and there's another interesting misconception here, potentially. This is all in the valley, so maybe this is all low, but they're going to have to read the shape of the valley, realizing this is closer to the source of this river, and this is a little bit further down, so there is definitely a gradient in the slope here. There are, of course, figures on the contour lines for them to explore, so there's all the evidence that they need in here, but it's a really lovely, challenging little task. So what I was able to do whenever the students were working on this was to come in and give them a little bit of feedback, and these two fine young gentlemen of course did initially have this in not quite the right order, and I was able to give them a little bit of feedback and watch, without telling the answer, get them to think about certain different things and watch how they moved them around. One of the other things that was great to see in this one was the communication that was going on when these students were discussing with each other. You can do this in a breakout room. Breakout rooms aren't quite enabled for us yet in Google Meet, so I'm getting them just to FaceTime a friend. But when the breakout rooms come in, this will be a great way of doing it. But they can also communicate with each other just in these sticky notes. And they finished off just as I was monitoring this. Communication is key, yay, teamwork, go team. Do you know what I love about that too as well? You know, in this time when we're all just socially distanced and away from each other, the opportunity just to get the students to have that social interaction with each other in the virtual classroom and just enjoy each other's company in the way that they would in class. It's absolutely brilliant to see that. So I'm able then to monitor how the students are getting on overall and see how they get on. We've finished off the lesson with this. Tomorrow's lesson we're going to go on and have an explore of how well they think they've read the landscape. And to help us with that, we're going to use this GIS map. Ordnance Survey maps are brilliant. This is the equivalent of what they saw in their JAM, of course. But what this allows us to do is to turn the two-dimensional landscape into a 3D landscape itself. So you can start to read that landscape, and you can start to move around and really get a sense of where these points are in relation to each other, and relate that to how the Ordnance Survey contour lines represent that data and that information on the map itself. In fact, you can go from this and look at these contour lines and change that into the actual landscape and toggle between those two, and you really can see how the contour lines represent three-dimensional space in such a compelling way. That's all coming in the next lesson, but in the meantime, that's how I was using just the very simple functions of Google Jamboard to get the students to do some good quality group work, to get them to think that I could monitor and feedback in real time.